Hi, this is Keena Kim with PivotalDiscovery.com, and today we're here with James Gordon, who was a special guest at the San Francisco chapter Women in eDiscovery meeting. James, I'll let you introduce yourself and share your experience today.
Well, thank you. My name is James Gordon. I'm Managing Director with Navigant Consulting, and I was really honored to be able to come to the Women in eDiscovery luncheon today in San Francisco. It is really an incredibly powerful group of women, and it is so exciting to see a rational approach being brought to the electronic discovery process. I've been involved with a number of electronic discovery cases, probably going back now 12 or 13 years. And I think over the weekend on a long flight, I tallied up something like 272 million documents that have been produced that lawyers have had to review. And while speaking at a conference in Manila last week, one of the judges said, "Has anyone ever reviewed all those documents that have been given to the other side?" And I broke out laughing and said, no. And I think that what in listening to the speech today and in talking with many members of the Women in eDiscovery, it's nice to have a rational thought-through process being applied to the electronic discovery, not only in how documents are collected, but strategically starting to think through and forcing their colleagues to think through what is the best way to analyze the documents, what is the best way to review the documents, and how to control some of the outrageous costs that have been bothering both corporate counsel and inside counsel. As you and I were talking about before you started running the camera, they played a clip which I was a little surprised to see, but many years ago there was a large litigation matter called a civil action. It was an environmental environmental litigation where I was one of 5 people who represented 8 families in Woburn, Mass. All very sad, but all who lived next to each other and whose children all died of leukemia. And this was way back in the early 80s before a lot of the knowledge and science had been developed. And we represented those families in their claims against W.R. Grace and Beatrice Foods for contaminating the water supply with a carcinogen or alleged carcinogen, trichloroethylene. And it was a 7-year battle. It resulted in the defendants spending close to $45 million in those days defending the case, and quite frankly, in all of us representing the families, and we did eventually get recovery and, more important, cleanup for the families, but we also went all bankrupt in the process. And what I realized in that case was the complexity of the law and the complexity of the discovery system. And that helped set a precedent for the future to simplify the discovery system, and that's the same thing the Women in eDiscovery are doing here.
Great. James, also you shared an interesting quip about your experience with the journalist during that case.
Yes. Sometimes the simplest things are the easiest. One of the things in that case was the defendants wanted to know what we, the plaintiffs, were up to. And they spent probably over $1 million on private investigators going through our trash. And the one thing we did is we had an author who wrote the book, A Civil Action, and subsequently became a bestseller. He was living with us every single day. He had intimate knowledge as to every move that we were making. He had 30 notebooks filled with all of our strategy, all of our witnesses, everything that the other side needed to tear us apart. And they never once thought about subpoenaing him. And they could have easily subpoenaed him. He had no protection. He had no privilege. And if they had thought of that one simple thing, they probably could have ended the case years earlier. And we believed at the time that sometimes the simplest things, especially in law, are the things that will be overlooked. And it was true then, and it's probably true now.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today, James.
Thank you very much.